Step 8. The Quabbalistic alphabet. The twofold key double letters. The single key described in Step 7 is the most important key in Quabbalah and serves the Quabbalist as a kind of preparation. It is called the single key because it represents number 1, being the number of deity. When meditating upon this, the Quabbalist will realize that he should make use of the single key only for his personal development, and that it is not advisable to work with single letters for others, since the single key works directly from the sphere of causes, the akasa. Should the Quabbalist want to bring about effects for others directly from the sphere of causes, he would, by doing this, not form a karma and therefore would be responsible for everything himself. If, on the other hand, he operates with more than one letter, the effects will not emanate from the world of causes, but from the mental, astral, or material world, depending on the number of letters he uses Quabbalistically, and the causes that are created will be registered in the akasa principle. The single key works in the akasa principle without actually creating any cause since it is emanating from the world of causes. The twofold key creates causes of a mental nature, and therefore also causes mental effects. The use of the threefold key brings about astral effects. It creates certain situations in the astral, and its effects are therefore of an astral nature. Formulas with several letters used together create material causes, and thus bring about material effects, setting up the fate, the karma, materially. In the following, I am going to give a description of the twofold key which no longer represents the preliminary micro and macrocosmic mysticism, but which already belongs to the field of magic with formulas. The micro and macrocosmic mysticism is only identified by the single key, being representative of divine providence. When using the twofold key, the Quabbalist works with two letters which may already be regarded as a formula, so that from now on the Quabbalist will be called a formula magician. The twofold key is identical with the mental plane, the mental body or spirit. The practice of formula magic in the mental sphere requires the use of two letters. Depending on the effect that is planned, this or that combination of letters will have to be chosen. The analogous key if a single letter also serves as a keynote in this case. In combining letters, the idea is the basis so that in Quabbalistic operations a certain combination of letters has quite a different significance than in any intellectual language. Thus, from the Quabbalist's point of view, the word dog, for instance, does not denote a certain animal, it has quite another meaning. This has been said only for the reader's information. Now I will describe, in a few short words of instruction, the twofold key and its effects on the mental plane. When working with this key, the formula magician must first imagine, in his consciousness, his astral and finally his mental body, just as he did when working with the single key, and he must pronounce the two selected letters as a spirit. He must thus be aware that his physical organs of speech, his tongue, lips, larynx, etc., are not uttering the two letters in a Quabbalistic manner, but that this is done by his spirit. And, similar to the work with the single key, the three-sense concentration must be adhered to when pronouncing the two letters. This means that each letter must be uttered in a visual, acoustical and emotional way. In our case, you start with the first letter and then you take the second one. Just like with the other keys, one may also work inductively or deductively, for one's own spirit or mental body with the twofold key. However, it is possible to apply the key also for others, that is, either directly to the relevant spirit, mental body, if a direct influence is to be exerted, or to the mental plane in general, and there again, either to one's own microcosm or to the microcosm of someone else, depending on the causes that are created by the help of the formula, and on the effects that one wants to produce. The use of the twofold key with letter A, which was already mentioned in connection with the description of the single key. That letter A is analogous to the air principle and thus to reason and intellect in all their phases. Consequently, when applying the twofold key in the mental sphere, the A will have a particular strong influence on the intellect, no matter whether used inductively or deductively, either for oneself or for someone else. The formula magician will make use of the double letter AA if he wishes or intends to conjure up reminiscences, to enlighten the intellect, to strengthen memory or to arouse other intellectual faculties. A, B if pronounced quabbalistically. These two letters will cure, by the help of the electromagnetic fluid, mental diseases, remove depression, fear, etc. In this case, the formula magician need not imagine the electromagnetic fluid, for it will work automatically and indirectly by means of the three-sense concentration resulted from the quabbalistic utterance. By the help of these two letters, the formula magician is also in a position to exert a healing influence on his own or on someone else's chest region and to treat any pectoral complaint quabbalistically from the mental plane, particularly in such cases where the causes are mental ones, as for instance shortness of breath caused by states of anxiety, etc. A, C. By the help of these two letters, pronounced quabbalistically, the quabbalist is able to embody at will any idea, virtue, etc., either in a fluid or a solid form of whatever kind, in a similar way as with a fluid condenser. In this state of development, the quabbalist does not need any recipes for the fabrication of fluid condensers, since he is now able to charge, by QUABBALAH, any object, whether solid or fluid, with the desired virtue. A, D uttered in a quabbalistic manner. These two letters particularly strengthen the consciousness of self and the whole mental matrix, that is, its radiation, and are used by the formula magician especially in case he wants to work over great distances, that is, telepathically. The faculty of working over distances is particularly strengthened in the mental body by this formula. A, E. This formula makes a transfer of consciousness easier. At the same time it makes possible for the transferred consciousness to absorb right and true impressions and to transfer these to normal consciousness. A, F. The letters AF applied quabbalistically will remove any disharmony, especially with regard to the intellect and will, in particular, strengthen the four basic qualities of the spirit. This formula is therefore usually used quabbalistically in those cases where great intellectual exertion is involved, and where willpower, intellect and feeling are overtired by this exertion. The three basic qualities, willpower, intellect and feeling are particularly strengthened and harmonized by this letter combination so that any fatigue will vanish. A, G. Wherever an atmosphere of peace, tranquility and harmony is to take place, these two letters will be applied by the twofold key. Inductively used for oneself, this formula will bring the benediction of divine providence. If anywhere forgiveness, remission, is to be achieved for someone else, this will be done by the help of these two letters. Furthermore, this letter combination will bring on the immediate calming down of any excitation of the human mind. A, H. The influence of divine intuition, on oneself and on others, will be attained by this key. In particular, immature men that think themselves surrounded by enemies and are therefore oppressed and haunted, may be cured and freed by the quabbalistic application of these two letters. Also, people who believe that they are being wronged may be enlightened by this key so that they will come to the conclusion that everything that is done justly. A, CH. This letter combination is a special formula by the help of which one's memory may be strengthened considerably, long forgotten reminiscences may be recalled to mind, thoughts and ideas returned to consciousness, and many other things. Applied inductively, that is, for oneself, this key possesses the power to recall to the formula magician's mind reminiscences of his former incarnation as intensively as if he had experienced them yesterday. This key is especially suitable to arouse a man's conscience. It is applicable in all cases of unjustified persecution, or where reckless human beings and unscrupulous actions are involved. Applied to oneself, this formula will awaken high inspiration and genuine intuition. J. This twofold key increases mental enthusiasm, irrespective of its purpose. When used for oneself, this formula will transform indifference into the opposite. When used for others, it will arouse interest either for the formula magician himself or for an appointed purpose. K. This letter combination is used to eliminate any doubt within oneself or somebody else. It gives confidence if one is working with it inductively. When applied deductively, it will evoke confidence and faith so that any doubt will be removed. If someone has slipped, but does not want to admit it, or is ashamed of having to admit a slip, the proper attitude will be conveyed to him by the help of this formula. Applied to oneself, the AL combination will bring about a better adapting to any idea in the mental body. Like the preceding formula, this one is also suitable for increasing one's adaptability, especially in cases where feeling is less involved and where the mind predominates. This letter combination may also be successfully applied to people who, besides their intellectual reception, should also let their heart speak. By using this formula, any feeling of aversion within oneself, and any intellectual fatigue in others, may be eliminated. This twofold key may particularly serve as a remedy after long physical and astral diseases that have caused mental fatigue and need convalescence. A special religious feeling may be evoked by this formula. If used for oneself, it will create a mental temple atmosphere. If this formula is applied to people who have no religious feeling at all, it will cause a certain interest in religion or a sense for religion. An experienced formula magician may instill a religious feeling even into the most stubborn materialist, if he wishes to do so. When applying this twofold key, the formula magician is able to cheer up his own mind, or the mind of someone else, to cure melancholic states of depression, and also to evoke the ability to solve the most difficult problems. If the formula magician wants to achieve a special understanding for the most profound causes, and the relevant effects, of the electric fluid, that is, if he wants to grasp these intellectually, he will make use of this twofold key. He may, of course, bring about the same with others. Using this formula, he is, furthermore, also able to arouse the spirit of invention within himself and in other people, especially if inventions are involved that are analogous to the electric fluid. When this letter combination is applied quabbalistically, it will, in particular, strengthen the memory for material things. It exerts an especially favorable influence on mechanical memory. Students and actors would certainly like to use this formula, if only they were able to work quabbalistically. This twofold key is also excellently suitable in cases where material things are to be called back to mind. By the help of this formula, one may comprehend the workings of divine providence through one's own intellect. That which is meant by the saying, God's mill grinds slowly but thoroughly, will be evident by this formula. Each formula magician who wants to grasp, with his intellect, the workings of divine providence in their total profundity, will make use of the AU formula. This formula helps, in particular, to considerably increase the faculty of acoustic concentration in the mental body and consciousness, either of oneself or, if desired, also of other people. Those whose sensitive predisposition is rather strong, and who must keep up the right balance of their faculty of aural, that is, acoustical concentration by force, should make use of this formula. The formula magician who wishes that the words he pronounces in spirit should be better perceived over the greatest distance may also apply this formula. It increases one's faculty of acoustic concentration, which means that there is greater condensation of the mental sound waves. Why this letter combination imparts the faculty of greater inspiration of the intellect, especially if one is engaged as a writer or has to do some kind of written work. Naturally, it also imparts the faculty of finding the right expressions to clothe a quality, virtue, abstract idea, or whole trains of thoughts, into words and reduce them to writing. The formula magicians who do written work and who work as authors have a great predilection for this formula. This formula is recommended for application, either to oneself or to others, if the faculty of learning by heart with effortless ease is desired. In particular, those people who want to attain a phenomenal memory may use it repeatedly. The formula magician may train himself, and if he so wishes, also someone else, to become a genuine mnemonist. This letter combination influences the relationship between intellect and physical matter. If, for instance, any satisfactory results from the mental plane with regard to physical matter are desirable, these may only be achieved by the twofold key and the help of this formula combination. The same effect will be brought about with regard to people for whom this key is used. This twofold key imparts the faculty of solving any problem of Quabbalistic alchemy with effortless ease. The formula magician uses this formula for his students who have difficulties in delving into the problems of Quabbalistic alchemy. If one is in doubt about a formula, particularly when experimenting on alchemistic transformation based on QUABBALAH, concerning the change of a power or ability, etc., or if there are difficulties in applying a formula, then one should resort to this formula, for it will evoke the desired faculty. I have now described all the letters of the alphabet in their analogous connection to the first letter with regard to the mental effects achieved by them. The intellectual aspect has been particularly stressed since the intellect predominates with letter A. If more than one letter is used, we no longer talk of a letter but of a formula. This means that a double letter already represents a Quabbalistic formula in which two powers, analogous to these letters, become effective. For purely technical reasons, I am not able to go into all the details of each letter. The formula magician has now reached the necessary maturity. He will appreciate that I have justly pointed out repeatedly that he must have acquired the faculties of the three-sense concentration described in my first book Initiation into Hermetics before the practical study of my third work, so that he has a clear picture of the functions of the material, astral and mental body, giving him a true conception of body, soul and spirit. Without this knowledge, it is not possible to make any use of the QUABBALAH. Many facts are difficult to convey intellectually, for especially in QUABBALAH there exist so many subtleties that can be grasped solely by a practical man. The use of the twofold key with letter B is indicated when dealing with a single key. The B is a letter of polarity in which the electrical and magnetic fluids become effective, and which symbolizes the positive and the negative principles in the fields of virtues and qualities. Letter B therefore represents polarity and its use on a Quabbalistic basis. The bipolarity has a positive influence on the whole alphabetical order. B, by the help of this formula, that is, by its electromagnetic fluid, the intellect is sharpened and the memory is strengthened at the same time, that is, their vigor and strength will be increased quantitatively as well as qualitatively. If one works inductively, that is, for oneself, one differentiates between a bright and a sharp intellect. However, it is difficult to describe the difference between these two expressions. But if one considers the fact that in Hebrew QUABBALAH 32 qualities of the intellect are mentioned and that, for instance, a distinction is made between a bright, a sharp, an enlightened intellect, etc., one will not be surprised to see these differences show up in practical work. The same, of course, is true of memory, which, in some way, runs parallel to the intellect, that is, to the concept of the intellectual faculties. B with this letter combination, the formula magician increases the faculty of creating electromagnetic volts for various purposes in the mental plane or the mental body, either within himself or with other people. The application of the B formula will facilitate the insertion of the electromagnetic fluid into the various volt forms. The use of this formula makes it possible to carry through space impregnations, no matter where and to what extent, by QUABBALAH. Each virtue, each quality that one utters spiritually into the room, will be tied to the space as desired so that it will work mentally. The application of the BC combination depends on the purpose that one pursues thereby. The formula magician will understand this and know how to apply it correctly. The formula magician will make use of this letter combination if he wants to give special strength to his mental matrix or to the mental matrix of someone else. The life cord between the astral and the mental bodies may be strengthened qualitatively as well as quantitatively, particularly the latter, so that, for example, insane patients, whose disorder has been caused by a weak mental matrix, may be cured by this formula. High-ranking initiates may, by this formula, prolong at will the duration of life between the astral and the mental body if they think this to be desirable and with divine providence permitting. If the magician, in practicing mental wandering, wants to stay outside his body for a longer period of time, or to sojourn in dangerous spheres where negative beings may be visited, he is able to enlarge his mental matrix by the help of this formula and strengthen the cord between his mental and astral body. B. The ability to have one's consciousness transferred according to one's wish and to bring about mental effects by the electromagnetic fluid can be easily attained quabbalistically by applying the BE formula. In the mental body, a greater faculty of making the languages of beings one's own is evoked so that one can also understand beings who have only a small intellect and have difficulties in expressing themselves. F. In order to bring about a uniform efficacy of will, intellect and feeling in mental wandering, or the transfer of consciousness, it is recommended to apply the BF formula. Apart from this, it gives one the ability not only to grasp the efficacy and functioning of the four basic qualities of the spirit with reference to the mental, astral and material worlds, but also to influence them at will by the help of the electromagnetic fluid. Someone who has not fully comprehended the connections between willpower, intellect and feeling, and, as a whole, the so-called ego consciousness, self-consciousness, in their relation to the electromagnetic fluid and its functioning, may attain, by this formula, the faculty of comprehending all these connections. That the quadrupolar magnet is hereby referred to, with regard to the mental body, the mental matrix and the mental plane, becomes clearly perceivable from what has been said. When applying this formula, the formula magician will be in a position to settle, from the mental plane, the greatest discord and quarrel and to give perfect spiritual tranquility. Helped by this formula, the formula magician attains the qualitative and quantitative power of true divine benediction via his mental body and its electromagnetic dynamics, which will not only bring about the relevant effects on the mental plane, but also on the astral and the material plane. Whenever works of divine intuition that have to be grasped mentally are involved, these can be clearly comprehended by the help of the BH formula. In particular, this formula strengthens one's vision, one's faculty of clairvoyance, due to its polarity. The magician who is not yet able to see images well enough will want to apply this formula, because by using this twofold key repeatedly he will, with regard to his mental visualization, attain a very clear view of his visions, that is, such a resolving power of spiritual sight as physical eyes can never possess. He is able to perceive the most subtle oscillation of mental origin with his spiritual eyes when he applies this formula. Of course, the formula magician also uses the BH formula as an aid for his students who do have the necessary maturity but are still not able to perceive, clearly and distinctly, the seen vibrations. Physical eyesight is also strengthened by this formula, if the electromagnetic fluid is focused to material eyes. A special gift for languages may be attained by this twofold key so that one gains the mental faculty of not only understanding all the languages of human beings, animals and spiritual beings, but also of recognizing whether a certain symbol is charged electromagnetically or not. Therefore it is possible to assess precisely the efficiency of the dynamics of a symbol in relation to the electromagnetic fluid and its effects. By this formula, the QUABBALAH initiates are able to transfer this faculty also to other people who are sufficiently mature for this. By this formula, it is possible to delete from one's consciousness any painful recollection, any disagreeable experience, and, furthermore, also any unnecessary pricks of conscience. This twofold key will especially be appreciated by formula magicians that are oversensitive. The formula magician who repeatedly uses this twofold key is able to eliminate consciousness in every man and being by means of the electromagnetic fluid and to bring on a deep state of ecstasy. Ecstatic formulas, however, have nothing to do with an hypnotic shock which is inasmuch somehow different, as the will is taken by surprise, this resulting in an affection of the nervous system. If, however, the BJ formula is uttered in the mental body of some other person, it will put the same into ecstasy at once. This is to say that intellect and feeling are emphasized in such a dynamic way that consciousness cannot keep pace and therefore brings about rapture without loss of consciousness. On using this letter combination, the formula magician is bestowed the faculty of condensing the electromagnetic fluid in such a way that it will work virtual wonders within the scope of legality. It stands to reason that one's faith is increased and one's belief in the power of the electromagnetic fluid is strengthened thereby. The student of QUABBALAH who does not succeed in increasing his faith up to the state of manifestation may successfully employ this formula. This faculty may also be transferred to other people and is called transfer of power or abhisheka in the Orient. The faculty of differentiating moral virtues from the standpoint of the efficacy of the electromagnetic fluid, that is, of the plus and the minus, is attainable through the BL formula. Transferred on somebody else, it can influence the plus and the minus with regard to the magical equilibrium. The formula magician who wants to initiate his student into the secret of the magical equilibrium, will influence the student's mental body by means of the BL formula, by which he may, of course, also achieve a state of absolute harmony within a few moments, should it seem desirable to him. This twofold key bestows on the formula magician the faculty or perfectly mastering the water principle mentally, that is, of getting under his control all the beings and authorities that are subject to the water principle. If the formula magician applies the BM formula in mental wandering, transferring himself to the sphere of the water spirits, all water beings will sense his power and will be pleased to serve him, from their highest to their lowest ones without it being necessary for the formula magician to assume the shape of the water being. This twofold key makes it possible for the magician to see through any mental matrix and to get it under his control. This means he can perceive the mental aura, that is, the radiation of the mental body, and impregnate it at will within him or in other people. It goes without saying that he is also able to read the faintest thoughts of a spirit, no matter whether it dwells in a physical or only in an astral body. By the way, all beings feel the superior power of a man in such a high state of development and would hardly dare to cheat the formula magician deliberately. When having used this formula for a longer period of time, one also acquires the faculty or perfect thought reading, apart from getting sharp and penetrating eyes. The application of this formula will lead to a perfect harmony in the mental and astral body. The mental oscillations evoked will bring about a state of absolute mental contentment. Furthermore, the formula magician will be given the evidence that from the material point of view success and happiness are the accompanying symptoms of mental contentment. This formula changes all pride into deepest humility and devotion, and, at the same time, brings on a certain religious feeling. The BP formula also puts one into the position to charge any object, or picture, by the electromagnetic fluid or by a volt created by means of this formula, so that everybody who gets into contact with the charged object, or picture, will find it pleasing. If this twofold key is used for material purposes, operating from the mental body, it evokes the longing for a child and for child love, the reproductive instinct being also aroused thereby. Or if the formula magician wants to acquire a certain ingenuity of a mental or astral quality, he may easily achieve this by the BR formula. After charging it with the electromagnetic fluid as a volt, he may use the formula to influence the freedom of action of any human being at will, and even deprive that man of his will power, if he so wishes to do so. However, the formula magician will only do such a thing in an emergency case, or in the case of mortal danger, in order to bereave his enemy of his will, or, if need be, also of his intellect. The faculty of becoming absolute master of the electrical fluid, and the gift of prophecy in all fields, may be attained by the BS formula. At the same time, this formula will lead to an excellent aptitude for clairvoyance regarding fate, that is, looking into the past, present and future. Apart from this, the formula magician will gain complete control over man and animal. If it seems desirable to him, he may at once evoke a state of hypnosis, or dazzle one's consciousness, or bring about sleep by this formula, depending on the way in which he charges the electromagnetic fluid connected to this formula. The BS formula is of an electric nature and influences willpower, which, if the formula magician so wishes, may be eliminated in any person, thereby causing immediate unconsciousness or hypnotic sleep. Many other phenomena may be brought about by the BS formula. BSH The BSH formula may be used for attaining the faculty of mental transmutation, that is, the transformation of one faculty into another one. It provides the electrical fluid with an especially strong penetrating power, expansion, and particularly enables one to cause many different phenomena in the fields where the electrical fluid is to take special effect. BT The faculty of mastering one's own memory, or the memory of other people, may be achieved by the BT formula. Likewise, astral magic in all its forms may be manifested by this twofold key. The formula magician gains absolute control over the elements in all the three worlds, that is, the mental, astral and the material world, by this letter combination. This letter combination is a very responsible one, for it enables the Quabbalist to get under his rule, and control, at will, the fate and karma of any human being. However, the formula magician will never interfere without mature consideration, since he would be made personally responsible for any inconsiderate action. For the electromagnetic fluid will directly enter into akasa when this formula is applied and will cause the relevant situations from there. Used for oneself, this formula will facilitate the application of the akasa principle with regard to the various planes. It cannot be doubted that also the ability of penetrating, with the electromagnetic fluid, into the akasa principle of physical matter, of our ether, may be attained thereby. By the help of the twofold key, that is, by means of the electromagnetic fluid, the formula magician may, if he so pleases, enormously increase all medial abilities within himself or in other people. The ability to concentrate one's feelings and sensations, the water principle in particular, may also be enhanced considerably thereby. In this connection, the religious feeling is likewise increased. This formula also contributes to better clairaudience and clairtelephony, that is, the acoustic reproduction by electromagnetic fluid over great distances. Furthermore, the formula magician will attain complete power over the water element through the BW formula and is thereby able to work real wonders in the physical world. If the formula magician is in need of high inspiration for a certain purpose, he will apply the BY formula, for by this he will be given the mental faculty of easily uniting himself with the akasa principle in all its forms. He can achieve the same with other people, if it seems desirable to him. Further, there is no doubt that by the help of the BY formula the formula magician is able to determine in advance the fate of any material matter, or direct it according to his own liking respectively. This formula will help one to increase many intellectual abilities within oneself or in other people, above all, oratorical gift, organizing talent, etc. The formula magician is also given the faculty of easily forwarding messages over the farthest distances through the air principle. Apart from this, he is able to paralyze any being, human or animal, by the electromagnetic fluid charged thereby for this purpose. But if he makes use of the inverted letter combination ZB he is able to cancel the paralysis again. This formula will put the formula magician into the position to consciously influence, as he pleases, any wishes, thoughts and actions. Helped by it, he may increase carnal appetites and passions, but also, vice versa, make them subside at will. Furthermore, he is able to charge the formula so intensely by the help of the electromagnetic fluid, that a quicker growth is effected. Magicians wanting to specialize in this are easily able to work the miracle of the mango tree in India, if they should want to do so. Using this formula, the formula magician projects the electromagnetic fluid in the form of light and warmth, in order to be able to evoke any phenomena of astral projection. By this twofold key, he is also able to enliven any kind of medicine and to make it bring on better results. Since this formula also contains the secret of forming the mental matrix for the production of the philosopher's stone, the formula magician will be given the faculty of enlivening any material object to his own liking. Now follow the formula combinations with letter C in their alphabetical order, which have a certain relation to transformation, to the Eucharist, to alchemy, to the enlivening of matter, and all analogous phases. In the circles of Hermetic initiates, it is called the second alchemistic key, that is, the alchemistic Quabbalistic key. The use of the twofold key with letter CC, or by means of the CA formula, one can increase the vitality of all intellectual faculties within oneself and in other people. By the mastery of this formula, also, asthmatic complaints and obstructions through phlegm may be removed. Likewise, all different kinds of medicine used for the cure of these diseases may be positively influenced by this twofold key. CB. Any food charged with the CB formula, that is, with the electromagnetic volt, will have an increased nourishing value, and if it is thus conveyed into the human body, it will also strengthen the electromagnetic fluid of the material body. Those formula magicians who intend to exert a greater electromagnetic influence in the material world, and primarily want to engage themselves in the magnetic treatment of diseases, will particularly appreciate this twofold key. Talismans may also be influenced by the CB formula, provided they have been charged by a volt. C. By the application of the CC formula, mental and astral bodies may be inspired with divine ideas in the following way: by means of meditation and concentration in connection with the CC formula, the mental body, and by means of dynamic breath, the astral body is impregnated with the specific virtues. D. By the help of this formula, the faculty or profound cognition, of penetration into the deep mysteries, enlarged self-consciousness, may, at will, be increased in the mental body. Likewise, it is possible to increase love sensations in all their aspects of brought into connection with dynamic breath. If food is charged with the CD formula and thus eaten regularly, the semen of a man and the ovum of a woman may be influenced with the virtues the procreated child is to have. Likewise, the fertility of both, man and woman, may be influenced most effectively if food and drink, or the respective medicine, are impregnated with this twofold key. The CE formula helps to increase the faculty of intuition, especially that of clairaudience. Also, the faculty of easily dematerializing and materializing of beings of all kinds can be achieved through this formula. This formula contributes to the consolidation of harmony in the mental and astral bodies. Positive qualities are consolidated and negative ones isolated. If embodied into food as Eucharist, this formula will make the body extremely resistant against any bad influence. The CG formula helps restrain feelings of lust in the mental body, changing them into peace and contentment. In connection with dynamic breath, this formula will make the astral body resist any bad influence, thereby stopping the decomposition of elements in the astral body. In the material world, the CG oscillation will bring about wealth or riches, depending on divine providence and one's karma, if the necessary situations are created in the astral world by the impregnation of an object, preferably a talisman. Through this twofold key, the formula magician may obtain mercy from divine providence and influence his own or somebody else's fated will. If embodied into food and drink, the CH formula will bring on the realization of all wishes. If clear water is influenced by this formula after 4 drops of Quintuecenta Universalis, alchemistic universal tincture, were given into it, the person who drinks this impregnated water will be given the donation of having any material wish fulfilled that he or she may utter in connection with this formula. At the same time, a rejuvenation, a prolongation of life and perfect health may be obtained by embodying the CH formula into the Quintuecenta, that is, by enlivening the same. Alchemists who do not know all this, usually fail in preparing the Quintuecenta, since they are not able to enliven the same mentally. The universal tincture has not only to be charged materially, but it must also be charged and influenced with the analogous connections in an astral and mental manner, apart from other irradiations connected to the quadrupolar magnet. The mental rhythm, mental life, is harmonized by this formula. Applied in the astral, in connection with dynamic breath, that is, with condensed three-sense concentration, this formula gets the astral body in universal rhythm and equips the same with all analogous abilities. Likewise, it brings about a perfect astral impregnation of it with regard to vitality, health, resistance, etc. If embodied in food, it can cure all diseases, the causes of which are the loss of the magnetic fluid. Thus, for instance, fever, tuberculosis, itching tetanus, etc. The CI formula is an excellent aid for enlivening all astral functions, which, at the same time, will be improved and strengthened. In the astral and the material world, it leads to perfect harmony, equilibrium, and tranquility. Like many other formulas, this one also contributes to a better power of radiation, emission of the electromagnetic fluid, in the astral and the material body. This formula is the so-called formula of sympathy or love and is mostly applied in love magic and magic of sympathy. The mental body is supplied with a wondrous radiation aura by this letter combination. In the astral body it arouses feelings of sympathy and in the material body it leads towards unification for procreation and sexual intercourse. Thus, the formula magician connects love magic and the magic of sympathy with this twofold key. When embodied in food and drink, this formula works as a so-called aphrodisiacum which stimulates one's sexual drive. Infertility, sterility and impotence are cured if the relevant medicine is impregnated with this formula. This formula removes states of anxiety and depression in the mental, it cures melancholy, increases one's courage and causes situations in the astral kingdom which bring about wealth and riches, depending on one's maturity and karma. When embodied in food, it will bring on full-bloodedness and possibly also corpulence. It is preferred by persons who want to gain weight. Formula magicians that are weak and lean also prefer this formula, for the glandular functions influenced by this letter combination will soon make rosy and vigorous human beings out of them. When applied to other people, it will remove mental and psychic disharmonies. In the mental kingdom, this formula evokes a feeling of security. In the astral body it will evoke firmness of character and positive qualities by means of dynamic breath and protect it against the influence of negative qualities, that is, negative qualities will hardly break out. At the same time, the astral body will be insulated in such a way that it cannot be attacked by any elementary or elemental. Embodied in food and drink, it increases vitality and health, and when food is permanently impregnated with this formula, one will stop growing old. In the mental body, the spirit, this formula increases one's sensitivity and, in the astral body it strengthens the magnetic fluid more in a quantitative than a qualitative way, that is, the efficacy of the magnetic fluid becomes denser, stronger and more penetrating. When food and drink are impregnated with this formula, personal magnetism and the magnetic material fluid are increased and bring on tranquility and poise. The CM formula is regarded as the principal formula for impregnating the magnetic fluid in order to charge it or condense it. The formula magicians who want to bring about materializations like to impregnate themselves with the CM formula before their work so that they have a sufficient volume of magnetic fluid. Wherever any concentration of magnetic fluid is required, this formula will bring it about. If the formula magician wants to achieve a qualitative or quantitative condensation of the mental matrix, he will apply this formula in connection with the BM formula. The astral body will be qualitatively condensed with regard to its elements and made resistant against the disturbing influence of the various unfavorable vibrations existing in the astral world. With the help of this formula, gait and movement of any man or animal may be quabbalistically influenced. Uttered in connection with the condensed magnetic fluid magnetic dynamics, the CN formula can bring about an immediate paralyzation of a human being or animal. This is especially useful for taming wild animals. Likewise, a thief who might even be far away may be paralyzed on the place of theft and kept in that state as long as the formula magician thinks it necessary. The latter is also able to evoke weight and the materiality by this formula. A high-ranking magician, however, will never abuse such a formula. The CO formula, 2, brings about a perfect harmony of the four basic qualities of the spirit, and again normalizes any irregularities that might have been caused by unfavorable situations or fate. This formula will produce perfect harmony of the electromagnetic fluid and the elements of the human body, astrally, mentally and physically. Embodied in food and drink, the formula may, of course, also be used for turning astral and material-bodied into magnets of success and happiness. The formula magician may either achieve this for himself or for anybody else. He will, however, never make his own final decision in this matter, but leave it up to divine providence to inspire him accordingly. The CP formula evokes excellent sensitivity in the mental body, and, in the astral body, the faculty of absolute psychometry, and in the physical body, a strong sexual drive and reproductive instinct and the appeal to the opposite sex, so that he who regularly embodies this into food and drink will appeal to, and be loved by, everybody. This formula evokes a feeling of freedom and independence in the mental body and is preferably used by every formula magician before carrying out mental wandering. In connection with dynamic breath, it enhances genius in the astral. The talents that one possesses, and especially the ones that appeal to oneself, are thereby consolidated so that one's ingenuity will never subside. When embodied in food and drink, this formula will develop business acumen in material matters, lead to quick action, bestow resistance, and facilitate the removal of material hindrances. The CS formula increases one's faculty of concentration, particularly of one's visual concentration. Connected with dynamical breath, it will consolidate, in the astral body, one's control over human beings and animals and will impart the gift for prophecy. If food, impregnated with this formula is eaten, the electric fluid in the human body will be strengthened not only quantitatively, but also quantitatively, so that any disease caused by disharmony of the magnetic fluid, for instance, paralysis, rheumatism, muscular atrophy, neurasthenia, will be cured by an invigoration and increase of the electric fluid. CSH in the mental body, this formula imparts an excellent memory. In the astral body, it evokes the ability to charge any form with virtues and qualities, and in the material body, it insulates against any bad influence from whichever plane it may come. Through this formula, perfect protection in any respect may be obtained so that this letter combination may be regarded as some sort of magic hood that is taboo and unassailable to any spiritual influence. To acquire the mental quality of being a favorite of divine providence, the CU formula is best suited, which, at the same time, imparts the power of controlling one's fate and making buffets of fate easier to bear, that is, securing that these do not come in extreme form all at one time, but that they have a gradual and endurable effect. When being applied in the astral body by the help of dynamic breath, this formula will evoke the permanent ability to emit, at will, the astral body, fully conscious and with full power, not only by astral wandering, wherever the formula magician wants to have it. The formula magician is also able to condense his astral body wherever he has transferred it and even to let it work materially. The formula magician has only to impregnate his food with this formula in order to get the necessary assistance for this faculty also from the material world. The formula magician will only make use of this formula if he does not only want to develop certain medial faculties, but also intends to maintain these for the whole duration of his life. Furthermore, the CW formula evokes a great liking for true mysticism in the mental world. In the astral, it will impart colossal reasoning power and quickness of repartee. When food and drink are impregnated with this formula, it will be possible to gain mastery over the whole water element, that is, not only over the water spirits, but also over the water element in the material world. helped by the CW formula, and this being connected to the magnetic fluid. The formula magician, as master of the water element, may achieve many astonishing things in the field of medical treatment. See why this formula bestows on the formula magician the mental ability to get into contact with divine providence at will. By this formula, he usually gets the highest intuition and inspiration from divine providence, but is, in most cases, thereafter entrusted with a mission as his servant. There is no way back then, but also no falling. In astral respects, it is the gift for prophecy and prediction which may be attained through this formula. In the material world, the magician is given the faculty of changing, at will, the fate of anything, of any animal as well as of any human being. If he also impregnates his food with this formula, he is able to make his physical and astral bodies invisible at his pleasure due to his permanent connection with the Akasa principle. Apart from this, many other things may be achieved with the help of this formula. C. Z. Helped by this twofold key, the formula magician may consolidate all the faculties of his mental and astral bodies. When eating food impregnated with this formula, one's body will be made tough and resistant up to old age. Any disharmony or restlessness will be removed by this formula and happiness and pleasure will take their place. The CZ formula is the formula of consolidation of everything that one wants to achieve in the material world and that one already possesses in the astral world. This formula evokes contentment in the astral body, perfect control over one's own character, firmness of character, in the astral body and full cognition of the matter and its mastery by the quadrupolar magnet in the material world. In the mental body, the CO formula reveals the secrets of alchemy in all its phases, and makes one see the true connections to the universal law. In the astral body, it arouses the faculty of permanent astral projection, no matter whether the projection of universal light, fluids, elements or any other phenomena of transformation is in question. In the material world, this formula, if embodied in food and drink, turns every formula magician into a perfect alchemist who is equipped with all relevant knowledge, abilities, etc. This formula is particularly important for those formula magicians who want to become perfect alchemists one day. The use of the twofold key with letter D, the description of the D series, which in its combinations with each letter of the alphabet is analogous to all phases of love and eroticism in the mental, astral and material world, now follows. D. This letter combination particularly raises and strengthens one's mental consciousness by charging the mental matrix and thus especially enlivens the intellect. Likewise, one's memory is also improved. The formula also serves the purpose of recalling long-forgotten reminiscences to mind and of enlivening them. If this formula is applied to a human being of great forgetfulness, the person concerned will develop an excellent memory. If applied to the astral body, this formula increases one's instinct for self-preservation and one's vitality. It evokes these qualities very intensively. People who have become weary of life are given new courage to live. This formula may be very successfully applied also to people who are planning their suicide. They are suddenly seized by a desire to go on living and are given courage to face life anew. Almost a new life is planted into them by this formula. When embodied in food and drink, this formula impregnates, if needed and desired, the male and female semen with various virtues and abilities. If a woman is pregnant, the fruit of her body may be impregnated by this formula, that is, the child's desired qualities may be embodied in it before its birth. Above all, the qualities of excellent perception, of easy learning, may be embodied in the child in advance by means of the DA formula. Of course, also other intellectual faculties can be achieved by this formula. If the Quabbalist chooses it on himself in a Eucharistic sense, he will, after frequent and regular use, attain the faculty of gaining and making use of the knowledge derived from any material objects with regard to the Hermetic science and its connections. This formula serves the purpose of consolidating or loosening, as desired or needed, the mental matrix within oneself or in other people. After frequent use of it with this idea in mind, one is imparted the faculty of calling in any mental body in its sleep, no matter how far away it may be, and of getting it completely under one's control so that he is able to give orders to this mental body which will later, immediately after waking up, positively be realized in the spirit of the person concerned. It must, however, be assumed that a Quabbalist will never be misled to give egotistical or even pernicious orders. C1 makes use of this letter combination if a radical purification of the mental body is to be achieved. Quabbalah initiates call this formula the Quabbalistic mental broom. Wherever a quick purification of thoughts or negative mental qualities is in question, as, for instance, is the case before various magic operations requiring an absolute purity of spirit, furthermore, also when for the purpose of mental wandering into other spheres absolute harmony and poise are needed, this letter combination may be used with surprising success. When applied repeatedly, this formula brings about an increased faculty of intuition. Transferred into the astral body, this formula will purify the same, too. In short, wherever a sudden equalization of the elements in the astral body is needed, the Quabbalist will apply this letter combination. 4. Apart from the excellent purification of the elements in the astral body, the astral faculty of inspiration is enhanced in particular. There is no doubt that this formula also strengthens the astral matrix. When applied in a Quabbalistic sense in the material world, this letter combination enlivens any substance, no matter whether it is a thing, a human body or any other living body. If the formula magician specializes in this formula, he is able to change the electronic oscillation that spins round every substance at will, that is, he may accelerate it or slow it down. Of course, one can also influence and change the qualities of a body at will by the help of this formula, especially after having used it for a longer period of time. The power of radiation of one's own, or of the aura of someone else, is also increased by applying this formula either directly or eucharistically, so that it has a dynamic effect which, for instance, is necessary in various magic operations. By the help of this letter combination, and after using it for a longer period of time, one is able to make the consciousness in one's mental body more subtle, that is, to refine it so that it becomes more receptive of any desirable idea. When transferring it to others, one can make the consciousness of any human being accessible to any idea that is transferred into his or her mental body. When this formula is applied to the respective person during his or her sleep, his or her consciousness may be made so receptive that it must even realize, post-hypnotically, any suggestion uttered over the greatest distance. Applied to one's own astral body, or to the astral body of somebody else, this formula will enhance all erotic aspects in the astral body. It stands to reason that the longing for receiving love, for lust and for reconciliation with the greatest enemy is aroused by this formula. Transferred into the material world, this formula combination is capable of arousing the elements of any substance or matter to their greatest efficacy. The DD formula is suitable for any work requiring an increased oscillation of the elements of the material body in elemental magic. By this formula, the elements are not increased qualitatively, but quantitatively. A repeated use of this letter combination in the mental body will bring about an excellent ability for intuition and the faculty of easily transferring oneself into the consciousness of any human being and, if necessary, of any animal, and of not only knowing everything that takes place in that consciousness, but also of getting it under one's control, if desired. Those initiates preferably use this letter combination who want to bestow on their students an abhisheka, that is, who intend to carry out a transfer of the power of consciousness, or the sensitivity of consciousness, or the enlightenment of an idea with other people. If, for instance, a student is mature enough, but is not able to seize a problem and deal with it in the right mental way, his guru is able to enlighten the consciousness of this student by the help of this formula in such a way that the student will comprehend the transferred idea to its full extent. By this way also, various talents and abilities may be transferred mentally. In the astral world, the formula magician uses this formula to bridge the distance between himself and his partner, that is, to clear the way so that his partner will distinctly perceive everything that the Quabbalist utters over great distances. This is called Quabbalistic use of clairaudience and clairtelephony. In the material world, this letter formula serves the purpose of condensing an idea in it in such a way that it will find material expression. When mastering this formula well, the Quabbalist is able to condense, for instance, the universal light in a pitch-dark room so that non-initiates will also be able to see and perceive everything. This letter combination may also be used, in connection with space impregnation, for the purpose of condensing an idea or a power in the room itself. It is also excellently suitable for charging talismans, no matter whether the influence is brought about with or without fluid condensers. Furthermore, for charging amulets, pentacles, etc. mixed eucharistically with food and drink, this formula will strengthen one's own nerves and the nerves of others. Thus, it may very successfully be used for all kinds of nervous diseases. This letter combination offers many mental faculties. Above all, it strengthens the will, increases willpower and intelligence, and especially enhances empathy in one's consciousness. Therefore, this formula is made use of before each mental wandering, for one is then put in a position to transfer all reminiscences and experiences gathered in the spheres, or wherever one may have been, into the material world more easily. When it is applied to the astral body or the astral world, any trait of character may either be enhanced or inhibited at will, depending on what is intended thereby. The outbreak of negative traits may, above all, be foiled. In material respects, this letter combination easily removes any disharmony in the body. It helps overcome states of excitement, cures all mental diseases, no matter whether the formula be applied directly, or by feeding the material body with eucharistically influenced food and drink. This formula makes it possible to evoke a feeling of reconciliation wherever this is required. Even the most excited mind may be calmed down within a few moments. Wherever it is necessary to evoke feelings of reconciliation, friendship, affection, etc., the use of this formula is given preference. This letter combination is also readily applied in love magic, since it evokes a feeling of blissfulness. When it is transferred to the astral world, situations will arise which will lead to luck and success in enterprises. Wherever domestic disputes, hostility and other astral disharmonies rise up, such situations may be caused by the help of this formula, which will change all disharmonies into perfect harmony. In connection with love magic, situations may be brought about in the material world by means of this letter combination which will lead to riches, wealth, happiness, etc. If this formula is used in natural magic, greater fertility will be achieved. This formula is used for sharpening one's mental eye, or the mental eye of someone else, so that a clearer, broader and more penetrating horizon in the mental plane is acquired. This letter combination gives those Quabbalists who, in their clairvoyant operations, find it difficult to tell apart colors, or who do not see clearly enough, a clearer view and a more exact perception of the contours. With regard to somnambulistic mediums, one achieves a clearer and sharper perception by this formula if it is applied during the state of trance of the medium. The formula may also be used for the neutralization of any buffets of fate. Furthermore, it is applied for sexual magic operations, vault magic, if one wants to dynamize one's own words by its help, in order to attain the astral faculty of working suggestively. Wherever one wants to have success in suggestive work, no matter whether in individual or mass suggestion, this formula may be used. Success will never fail to show up. If letters are dynamized with this letter combination or charged respectively, they can make the receiver carry out all the orders contained in them. If eucharistically embodied in food and drink, this formula will help to have any material wish fulfilled by the elements. Many other possibilities for use could be mentioned, but these few hints may suffice to prove the versatility of this formula. When applied mentally, this formula will evoke an excellent gift for language, either within oneself or in other people. By the help of this formula, one may inspire any creature, no matter whether spirit, human being or animal, with one's own thoughts. Any object may be dynamically impregnated with any idea, and enlivened, by the application of this formula. The Quabbalist is able to recall to life dead people by means of this formula, provided that death has not been caused by severe organical troubles like cancer, tuberculosis, etc. On the other hand, people having died of paralysis of the heart, embolism, may be called back to life by this formula only if no karmic reasons oppose their resurrection and if the Quabbalist is especially familiar with the use of the cosmic language. With this formula, it is possible to get any animal living in the water under one's control at will, and to force any being of the water element to submit to the will of the Quabbalist and to appear visibly at his request. Similar to many other formula, also the DI formula can help to recall reminiscences, images of memory, or to delete them at pleasure. In material respects, especially one's mechanical memory, learning by heart, may be particularly strengthened by this letter combination. People who must learn by heart great roles, for instance actors, orators, etc. will realize that this formula may be a good aid in their profession. Likewise, the Quabbalist is enabled, by the help of the DI formula, to incite the conscience of a man to greater efficiency, that is, to evoke pricks of conscience, or to make these subside at his pleasure. When transferred into the astral world, astral body, the DI formula will evoke great sympathy and, at the same time, it is capable of strengthening loyalty that already exists. If this formula is used for the life of a married couple, and is transferred into the astral world, its effects will prevent any disloyalty between man and woman. In connection with natural magic, any idea may be easily realized in the material world. Mixed with food and drink, it will bring on success and happiness in every respect. Someone who makes use of this letter combination may place himself, or others, into ecstasy, rapture, at any desired moment. Also mediums or people with a medial gift may, by the help of this formula, be put into a somnambulistic state within a few moments. Transferred into an astral body, this formula evokes strong sexual instincts in human beings and animals of both sexes. If this formula is transferred into the material plane of human beings and animals, it will prevent infertility, either by direct use or by embodying it eucharistically in food and drink. This formula enormously increases the power of faith in one's spirit, especially in one's consciousness. The projection of light, or work with universal light, is facilitated if the formula magician repeats this letter combination often. Applied in the astral, the DK formula removes any state of anxiety and secures success in love-making. It brings about situations in the astral world which will lead to riches and wealth. Materially, this formula may be applied wherever abundant fruit, rich harvests, etc., are expected. With this formula, it is possible to incorporate into the mental body any desired virtue that is required for one's spirit. It stands to reason that it may also be successfully applied to other people. Used in the astral, this letter combination subdues any sensual appetite, any passion, and, apart from this, dissolves any astral elementary. The DL formula is especially suitable for prenatal education. As far as health is concerned, food and drink are influenced with the wish that the semen be impregnated with future health. Repeated use of this formula in the material body, also by Eucharist, will lead to almost miraculous physical resistance and toughness. A body that has been quabbalistically impregnated in this manner will be distinguished by great efficacy in work and sports, and any quabbalist who wants to achieve something in competitive sports will gladly use this formula. This letter formula may be successfully applied, either to oneself or to other people, to attain mental brightness and vitality and special interest in mental matters. Mental tiredness is transformed into mental vigor by it. In the astral body, this formula arouses an ardent longing for love and being loved. A volt produced and transferred into the astral world by the help of this formula, with the purpose of stirring up love thoughts or similar ideas, will cause situations that will contribute to the realization of these desires. In the material world, the material body, this letter combination will strengthen the magnetic field. The desire for sexual satisfaction is roused in the opposite sex. If an enforcement of one's own magnetic fluid is required, this letter combination should be used either directly or eucharistically, that is, transferred into food and drink. The DM formula also helps cure any diseases of the water region, that is, the abdominal region, when connected with the magnetic fluid. This is particularly the case in respect of chronic constipation, enterospasm, dropsy and all diseases that are analogous to the water principle. This letter combination reinforces the mental matrix and consequently increases the faculty of mental perception. When applied to oneself or to others, it intensifies the spiritual irradiation, the aura, and enhances the qualities of the spirit. The risk, however, is that, when applied to others, the negative of their spirits may also be strengthened. Thus one has to be very careful when applying this formula to others. If one wants to make use of it for oneself, it is advisable to repeat the formula, DC, that cleans the mental body before doing so. Applied astrally, this formula will fulfill any desire for love in man and woman. When applied to oneself, it will lead to a blissful wedding, to a happy married life and to contracting good and permanent friendships. In material respects, this letter combination represents an excellent formula for procuring sympathy, evoking mutual love and attraction. By repeating this formula, one attains an excellent power of judgment, of reasoning. Whether used for oneself or for others, it will bring about absolute harmony and poise as well as tranquility of the spirit. In the astral, situations are caused by this letter combination that will lead to satisfaction in all sorts of love matters. Embodied in food and drink, this formula may bring about changes in one's tastes so that, for instance, bitter coffee may be turned into sweet coffee without having to use a sweetening agent. By the use of this formula, one is even able to change water into wine and, vice versa, wine into water. This formula inspires one with humility and awe. Applied to others, it will give a fall to arrogance, pride, conceit, and arouse pricks of conscience. Even the coldest heart will be warmed up by the DP formula. Astrally, this formula may serve the purpose of enlivening pictures so that they get a beautiful and appealing effect. The fact that incubuses and succubi can be consciously created thereby, may be mentioned by the way. For in connection with the strong enlivening of a picture, there also takes place a strong condensation of it so that it gives one the impression of being alive. The enlivening process of the picture may also be perceived by non-initiates. When applied materially, this formula will also, like many others of the D series, evoke the desire for sexual satisfaction and rouse a longing for children. In the mental world, the spirit, this formula brings on a keen mind and rouses the feeling of independence and absolute freedom. It is therefore recommended to repeat this formula before every mental journey, since it causes an easy separation of the mental body and facilitates mental wandering. When used in the astral, the DR formula makes one popular with other people and arouses any kind of ingenuity that one may want to possess. Materially, it imparts extreme skill and manual dexterity and enable one to use one's acquired knowledge in a way that will result in material fruit. Furthermore, this letter combination makes one understand the sorrows of other people. The DS formula may be used to arouse special enthusiasm, either within oneself or in other people, since it particularly strengthens the electric fluid in the mental body. Used astrally, this formula forces people to be obedient and evokes the feeling of great submissiveness in the opposite sex. When applied in sexual magic operations, the DS formula, above all, imparts the faculty of astral vision into the past, present and future. In the material world, one may, by the help of this letter combination, cause the greatest and worst enemy that one has to panic. Moreover, this formula protects against any kind of magic interference, bad influences, etc., which are intended to hurt or destroy the material body or any other material object. DSH in the mental body, this formula will bring about clear knowledge. It is preferred by gurus who want to impart an abhisheka, transfer of consciousness, of a certain hermetic knowledge to their students via telepathy. By means of this formula, the faculty of quick perception of any problem is also achieved. Applied to the astral body, this formula imparts the power of becoming absolute master of love who will not be intoxicated by any love influences. The formula magician should therefore impregnate his mental body with this formula if he intends to visit the sphere of Venus, the sphere of beauty and love, in order to be exempted from the insidious charms. Used materially, any seed may be impregnated in such a magic Quabbalistic manner that it will shoot up and grow with unnatural rapidity. In this connection, everybody will certainly remember the well-known mango tree miracle, which may be realized by the help of this formula. Through the DSH formula, any matter may be enlivened and any idea may be materialized. This formula combination is preferably used for strengthening either one's own or somebody else's memory. It is also excellently suitable for charging talismans with a view of strengthening one's memory. When applied astrally, it will remove the sensation of cold with regard to love between man and woman and enhance love sentiments in every respect. In the material body, this formula will strengthen vitality in general. It will help to overcome states of exhaustion, etc. When applied directly or eucharistically. This letter combination will place the formula magician into the position to impart an extremely strong vitality to his semen or ovum or that of another person, no matter whether man or woman, which will facilitate impregnation, provided the erogenous zones are quabbalistically impregnated with this formula. This formula particularly evokes the faculty of thought reading, further, the faculty also of perceiving the mental faith, the karma of the past, present and future, of oneself, or of others, and of influencing it favorably at will. Every Quabbalist knows that there is a mental, an astral and a material karma. Astrally, this formula combination may be used for influencing love affairs. One may also revert to this formula when charging talismans. When applied materially, a telepathic, spiritual, bond between man and woman is established and the exchange of feelings made possible. Likewise, this formula strengthens the akasa principle in the human body, which will be of great advantage to the capability of clairvoyance, clairaudience and clairfeeling when transformed into physical matter. Used as a formula, this letter combination will increase one's faculty of concentration, especially with regard to sensations, that is, concentration of feeling. The Quabbalist who is not able to turn his feelings into a dynamic potential, a field of force, will find this easier if he resorts to this letter combination. Frequent repetition of this formula will rouse various faculties in the mental body. Applied astrally, this formula evokes religious feelings and a mood of holiness, the so-called temple atmosphere. Furthermore, the DW formula is also used for space impregnation for the purpose of evoking a temple atmosphere, since it arouses a mood of humility, a great devotion to the worshipped deity. In material respects, this formula secures maximum success in wooing. By its help, the opposite sex can be made to believe the unreal, it thus can inspire with credulity. Apart from its application for space impregnations, this formula cannot be used by true adepts, and I have only mentioned it because of its peculiarity. In particular, the connection to God, in the light of love, is increased by this letter combination. The result is good intuition as well as inspiration in the mental body. Astrally, this formula imparts a good sensitive faculty and makes one fully comprehend one's love to the opposite sex and, likewise, fully determine the degree of love sensations. This letter combination is regarded as a kind of special formula for charging talismans by means of sexual magic. If, for instance, this formula is applied to the akasa principle of a semen, it will not only be possible to influence the latter, but also to see the way it works. If, therefore, the Quabbalist concentrates himself on the akasa principle of a grain of seed, Applying to it this formula by transfer of his consciousness, he is enabled not only to see the tree growing from this seed in its full size, but also to perceive the whole fate of that tree. Used quabbalistically, this formula reinforces all intellectual faculties of the spirit, especially memory, and rouses an excellent gift of combination in the mental body. After repeated application in the astral, this letter combination will sharpen any artistic skill in the faculty of clothing abstract ideas into words. When concentrated on the head region, this formula will strengthen one's telepathic sensitivity. If it is Eucharistically embodied into food and drink, it will lead to toughness, endurance, and it is especially suitable for performances of sports. When used for space impregnations, it evokes great sociability, and furthermore, the right mood also for entertainments, jokes, dancing, etc. Wherever there is a depressing mood in a room, it can be removed by the DZ formula. Like many other formulas of the D series, the DE also arouses thoughts of ardent desires, craving for sexual satisfaction. However, the DE formula is also successfully applied wherever melancholy and all its concomitant phenomena are to be removed. This formula brings about situations leading to the satisfaction of personal desires, in particular those relating to love and eroticism. In material respects, this formula is good against sterility, unfruitfulness, and when applied Eucharistically, that is, embodied in food and drink, it is against nightly pollutions. This formula imparts to the mental body the faculty of easily mastering any idea by QUABBALAH and easily changing, transmuting, it into the opposite, if desired. Furthermore, the DO formula also strengthens spiritual perseverance. Used astrally, this formula subdues any kind of desire and passion, in particular erotic and perverted ones. In the physical world, the matter, this formula serves to turn one's sexual energies into vitality or any intellectual faculty. The use of the twofold key with letter E. All combinations with letter E have a secret connection to human consciousness in all three kingdoms, and at the same time to condensation or materialization. Used mentally, this formula reinforces one's intuition, enlarges one's consciousness, facilitates the transfer of the latter and sharpens one's spirit and intellect. In the astral body, it increases the faculty of astral hearing, especially the hearing of spiritual beings, enhances the mastery over the air spirits and rouses numerous medial faculties, including the faculty of making the right use of this formula in the astral. Applied materially, this letter combination is capable of calming the most furious gales and thunderstorms. Used Eucharistically, it will cure any allergy related to asthma. By means of this formula, one can impart strong dynamics to any form of ideas, elemental and thereby facilitate one's work in the mental plane. If repeated before mental wandering in the mental body, this letter combination imparts a stronger resistance, enabling separation from the material body for a longer period of time. In the astral body, a stronger charging of the electromagnetic fluid for various purposes is effected by this formula. Likewise, this formula also serves for the Quabbalistic charging of talismans, amulets, pentacles, and furthermore, also for the materialization of beings that are to be transferred to an object by means of electromagnetic volts, for the Quabbalistic charge of mirrors with fluid condensers, etc. The EC formula may be used to facilitate the conscious comprehension of an abstract idea or conception, and furthermore, to embody a virtue or faculty in the spirit, the mental body. If an astral faculty is desired as a permanent quality, one also makes use of this formula, which is, furthermore, particularly suitable for the impregnation of astral vigor and poise. Above that, this formula is also recommended for use before experiments intended to materialize one's own astral body, no matter whether directly beside one's physical body, or far away from it. Condensation will be so much the easier. The EC formula is used for material purposes, especially if one's physical body is to be rejuvenated. In such a case, food and drink must be impregnated with the EC formula. After considerable use, one will not only appear to be younger, but one's vigor and vitality will also be increased. By the use of this letter combination, it is easy to influence one's conscience, that is, to rouse, increase and make effective, in the outside world, the various intellectual faculties by the help of telepathic suggestion in connection with this formula. Being applied astrally, one will be accepted by the opposite sex. It is therefore recommended to repeat this formula before any kind of wooing. Its repetition is also useful in gaining the favor of other personalities. When applied to oneself, the ED formula endows one with appeal and makes one very sympathetic in the eyes of other people. Regarding the material world, a seed may, by the help of this letter combination, be brought to rise up more quickly, fertility in nature may be increased, one's sexual energy influenced favorably, success be brought about in any situation, especially with regard to friendship, etc. Someone who uses this formula eucharistically, that is, who impregnates food and drink with it, and eats and drinks it thus, will turn from a thin man into a corpulent one. Used in the mental body as Quabbalistic formula, it will facilitate the mental wandering of that body, but also the transfer of one's consciousness, either to a certain place or into a certain object. If this formula is applied to sick people whose consciousness is disturbed, these people will recover their normal consciousness. The EE formula is also regarded as a protective formula against getting drunk. He who uses this formula cannot get drunk nor suffer any disorder of consciousness. If it is quabbalistically cast into the astral body of a drunken man, he will get sober at once. Applied to one's own astral body, this formula evokes the faculty of astral hearing. If the formula is used in connection with the impregnation of a room, all people in that room will be able to perceive, without difficulty, the invisible world, invisible beings, etc. When impregnating a room over a great distance, the quabbalist, helped by this formula, is able to utter his words in such a way that they will be heard also by magically untrained people present in that room, be its distance ever so great, with such clarity as if the quabbalist were there himself. It is, however, recommended to dissolve this room impregnation at once after use, for otherwise all kinds of hoaxing spirits and elementaries are likely to haunt it, and these beings may then also be perceived by untrained people. In the material world, a favorable faculty or projection is attained by this formula, and a fluid condensers may be charged by it with the purpose of carrying through materialization of either a being, elemental or elementary, etc. Anything that is to become more physical is easily materialized by the help of this formula. By the help of this formula, absolute mental balance may be achieved, apart from absolute spiritual tranquility and poise. If applied to married couples who are constantly quarreling, these will soon be reconciled. The greatest rage will be turned into imperturbability and composure. This formula will therefore be used wherever tranquility is required. Even the most agitated mind may be calmed down in a few moments. Applied astrally, a quick purification of one's astral aura, which then will shine like a wonderful light, is achieved by this letter combination. In other people, this formula will arouse a feeling of peace and security and make them experience well-balanced happiness. In the mental world, this formula will increase the vitality of the human body. Mesmerists are fond of making use of this formula when they want to reinforce quabbalistically their own vitality. The EF formula is capable of rapidly renewing lost vitality, or reinforcing low magnetism. This formula will exert a universal influence on physical health, especially with regard to nervous diseases. If mixed with food and drink, it strengthens the individual elements of the food, thus stimulating it to become more effective. Concentrated in medicines or fluid condensers, this formula will particularly increase the healing or curing effect. E.g. this formula removes absent-mindedness, imparts mental tranquility, makes one bear karmic blows of faith more easily, and leads to the realization that everything happens justly from the Hermetic point of view, no matter whether it is right or wrong in our opinion, and that everything that happens has its reason. To arrive at this understanding is to have the blessing of divine providence, which can be achieved either for oneself or for others by the help of this formula. When used astrally, this formula will give the inspiration how happiness and success are to be achieved. A volt that has been formed and charged for the astral plane by means of this letter combination will cause situations that will bring on happiness and success and everything one wishes to achieve, unless it is karmically inadmissible, and will initiate everything necessary to attain one's final goal. This formula is especially suitable for people who are really unlucky fellows. After repeated use, it will lead to absolute contentment. When used in the physical body and the material world, this formula will protect against any kind of material losses, lead to riches and wealth and increase these gradually. Embodied in food and drink, this formula is a proven medicine for anemia and green sickness since it quickly forms erythrocytes and favorably influences glandular activity and blood circulation. If a problem of particular importance is in hand needing direct inspiration from divine providence, it is recommended to transfer this problem into the Akasa principle, the principle of all causes, to repeat the formula several times, and then to persevere in the negative state, that is, the thoughtless state. The first inspiration is always the right one and may therefore be regarded as the answer. If, apart from this, the formula is mentally uttered into both eyes and likewise repeated, it is capable of sharpening the mental eye. Hermetically speaking, of spiritually purifying the eyes, so that one gets a clearer mental view. This formula is therefore particularly suitable for clairvoyants who must make daily use of their spiritual vision. The repeated use of the mental eye, however, reduces one's physical eyesight. To avoid this, it is recommended to use this letter combination. In the astral body, the formula makes one invulnerable to astral influences. The astral body is almost mummified by this formula so that it becomes practically unassailable. Furthermore, this letter combination protects against decomposition through astral elements, and makes the astral body resistant so that the good and noble qualities may never be shaken. The astral body is thus spared any temptation and will anticipate any danger lying ahead. With regard to the material body, the formula will cause the situations that the Quabbalist wants to have it in. Applied to other persons, this formula makes a success of all undertakings and fulfills any material wishes. Mixed eucharistically with food and drink, it makes the physical body resist any kind of disease. In the mental kingdom, the mental body, this formula leads to clear knowledge and develops the ability to read any plans from the consciousness of a human being and to transfer one's own consciousness into any spirit, man or animal, that is, to identify oneself completely with any object. Expressed in other words, absolute mastery of the consciousness of spiritual beings, human beings and animals is achieved by the help of this letter formula. At the same time, the use of this formula imparts the gift for psychometry. When it is mastered in the astral body, one attains the gift for clairaudience over short and long distances, into the past and the present. Life rhythm in all its phases in nature and man may also be influenced by means of this formula, that is, by the mastery of this formula. It is also possible to make the dead rise to life again by restoring the rhythm to their hearts, providing that their physical bodies have not suffered from a severe disease which has already decomposed them during lifetime. Likewise, people hard of hearing who have an or anatomical defect may also be delivered from their complaint by means of the formula, if it is rhythmically applied to their ear regions. In material respects, many Quabbalistic feats may be carried through by means of the formula, together with the water element. Thus, for instance, water may be kept fresh constantly, it may be made to evaporate in front of the eyes of onlookers, it may be evoked in the driest desert, if required, even directly from a rock. In natural magic, rain may be caused through this formula, fog may be evoked, water may be made solid, but not its transformation into ice is meant by this. A great number of other phenomena may be evoked by the genuine application of the formula, which will sound unbelievable to the non-initiate. Only experienced Quabbalists should make use of this formula, for by its help it is possible to transfer the spirit back into previous incarnations, whereby the reminiscences of former lives on earth, with all that knowledge and experiences, are released, the Quabbalist being fully conscious of them. If the Quabbalist allows this to happen, he becomes fully responsible for his former incarnations and the fate of these, which will then be transferred to his present life. In most cases, this curiosity is paid for dearly. I only mention this formula, firstly, to point out its peculiarity and the dangers involved, and secondly, not to cause a gap in the series of letterae. Bearing the indicated danger in mind, the Quabbalist will only make use of this formula in case of emergency. If, however, the Quabbalist is able to offer divine providence the reasons for his exploring the past, for instance to explore the karma of others, he may safely use this letter combination. By the use of this formula in the astral, all the astral functions, no matter of whatever type they may be, are increased and stimulated to more intensive activity. The EI formula stimulates the activity of the elements in the astral body with the disadvantage that, due to the great efficiency of the formula, unfortunately the negative workings of the elements are also increased, which then have to be inhibited by means of other suitable letters. The EI formula reinforces the instinct of self-preservation and may therefore also be applied to people who have become weary of life. If the EI formula is mastered also in the material world, one's muscular energy may be doubled or trebled by its help. After repeated use, and especially if mixed with food and drink, this formula makes one attain enormous muscular strength, even in case one's physical body may appear to be much weaker. The energetic efficiency achieved by the help of this formula comes near to the miraculous, thus thick iron bar may be bent, heavy stones lifted, and many other things. Mentally seen, a medium may be placed into a state of trance and a state of ecstasy simultaneously by this formula. It delivers the spirit from the bonds of the astral body, and the medium is enabled to look over time and space and to reproduce authentically to the operator what has been viewed. Applied to oneself, this formula facilitates an easy exteriorization of the mental and the astral body. Likewise, it allows all impressions and experiences to be taken over into normal consciousness, in particular those things that were perceived through language. This formula is very successfully applied in mummial sympathetic magic. Likewise, the faculty of clairaudience is easily attained by mummial magic in connection with this formula. Practice is as follows: 2 partners of equal state of development prepare 2 similar mummies, influencing them with their own blood. Then they enliven the mummies, wax figures, by the help of this formula magic. If one operator speaks into the mummy at the prearranged time, the other operator, after having placed the other mummy to his ear, will clearly hear every word that is spoken irrespective of the distance. Then the rules are changed, that is, the transmitter becomes recipient, and vice versa. This is called mummial telegraphy. Both wax figures must, of course, be charged with the EJ formula to guarantee success. I only mention the practice with this formula because of its peculiarity. If, in the material world, this formula is transferred into the sexual regions, it will excite and stimulate them for sexual intercourse. This formula may also be used to increase one's sexual energy. It will, furthermore, enhance the fertility of a woman and serve as aphrodisiac for both man and woman. Applied mentally, it will especially strengthen the power opposed to the fire element and the will, and therefore reinforce the state of manifestation of one's belief. The formula contributes to the quickest realization of everything that one wishes to have, and that one believes in, due to one's knowledge of the universal laws, the laws of analogy. In general, absolute security is obtained by this formula together with a strong belief in everything that one is interested in and that one wants to have realized, and the elements will fulfill these wishes automatically without having to cause situations for their realizations first. If the formula is used for other people, it will guarantee them absolute security in their undertakings. In the astral, this formula will bring about absolute tranquility, resoluteness and careful consideration so that one will be able to resist even the greatest dangers and never lose one's mental equilibrium. Hostile people will keep out of the way of an astral body that has been influenced by this letter combination, because they feel its superiority. If this formula is applied to other people, it will rouse restlessness, courage and perseverance in them. If mixed with food and drink, this formula will increase the electromagnetic energy, especially if used for material purposes. Vaults that are formed for achieving wealth should be charged with this letter combination. This formula combination will endow the spirit with the faculty of easily looking through the character and virtues of any human being and of analyzing them without difficulty, and, furthermore, of reading the thoughts of other people. When applied to oneself, this formula rouses an excellent gift for analytical combinations, which will be especially advantageous for people engaged as writers. When used for oneself astrally, this formula will bring on strength of character and such a tranquility of the mind that it will never be shaken by anything. Applied to the astral of other people, this formula rouses blind confidence so that these people will confess to the Quabbalist their good as well as their bad deeds. It will make the most taciturn man talkative and obedient. If the region of the neck is influenced by this formula, the result will be especially great perseverance in talking, which is particularly appreciated by people who must do a lot of talking in their profession. Helped by this formula, they will not easily get tired of their work. This formula makes one's physical body healthier and more resistant and endows it with stronger nerves and greater vitality. Therefore this formula may be used for all kind of nervous diseases. Mute persons who lost their speech due to a shock may regain it unless they have an organic defect. In the mental body, this formula will increase the faculty of clairsentience and psychometry. But other medial faculties that are analogous to the sensitive faculty may also be aroused and reinforced by this formula. If this letter combination is genuinely used in a Quabbalistic sense, the feelings that one wants the most insensible man to have might be transferred into him. The most reckless criminal will get thoughts of repentance and pricks of conscience through this formula. Used in the astral, one can, by this formula, easily call forth beings of the water element and make them speak and sing. The singing of the water virgins is extremely beautiful. Apart from this, the faculty of differentiating tone oscillation well and of using them for various purposes may be obtained by the help of the formula, that is, one may thereby learn the astral tone magic. Embodied materially into food and drink, the formula strengthens the magnetic fluid. This formula is used wherever an extremely strong magnetic energy is required for an experiment, irrespective of whether for healing or curing purposes, or for any other type of magnetic magic. If the formula is used dexterously, fish may be easily fixed in the water so that one can catch them with one's hands. When this formula is banished into a vault, the greatest enemy may, in case of great danger to one's life, instantly be rooted to the ground and the most dangerous animal made stiff and hard. This formula is used in connection with the mental protecting coat. If, by using this formula, one surrounds oneself with a mental wall, known as Odic protective coat, one cannot be penetrated or influenced by any power, no matter whether positive or negative, for this is a state of perfect mental insulation. In the astral, this formula serves the purpose of protecting a room, building, etc. It does not only give protection against bad influences, but also against elemental powers like lightning, etc. Furthermore, it also guards against thieves if the room is impregnated with this formula. No being, neither spiritual nor material, is then able to enter the impregnated room, and in case it should dare to do so, it will panic and leave the place at once. The formula thus secures perfect protection against any assault and any influence. As long as the room impregnation is effective, neither a good nor a bad being is able to enter the room in question. In material respects, everything that moves, be it man or animal, or even an invisible being, may be spellbound instantaneously so that he or it will not be able to move from the spot. If this spell is to be broken again, the formula must be repeated vice versa, and E. Also volts serving various purposes may be formed by the help of this formula. It is usually used that way for things that are to be attracted. This formula makes heavy things light, and, vice versa, light things heavy. Many more Quabbalistic jobs analogous to the ones stated here may be carried out in connection with this formula. Used mentally, this formula forces the biggest liar to tell the truth, the greatest criminal to admit his foul deeds, and the opposite sex to confess infidelity. If this formula is applied to a person during sleep, that person will admit everything he or she has done without being aware of this confession. If the EO formula is used for oneself, it will make one attain an excellent power of judgment. The craving for the reparation of a mistake is roused by it, and an uncompromising honesty is awakened in man. Applied astrally, this formula arouses an inclination to asceticism and to spiritual independence. If applied astrally to other people, it will lead to absolute contentment and to success in undertakings. The inspiration necessary for success, the required impulse and suggestion, will always come at the right moment. If it is applied to enemies materially, karmic retaliation will show up very soon. Repeatedly used for oneself, no matter whether eucharistically or directly, this formula will bring about outstanding success in all undertakings, and also good luck at games. This formula combination evokes a strong religious feeling in the spirit, mental body, in connection with deepest humility. The Quabbalist usually uses this formula before prayer, profound meditation, or work in the Akasa principle, in order to rouse the right mood and to increase the faculty of intuition within himself. For people devoid of feeling, or persons who do not appreciate any religious feelings at all, it is recommended to make use of this formula to rouse the respective feeling in them. If this formula is used in the astral, it will evoke the mood necessary for the elemental equilibrium. It therefore pays well to use it for temptations which can hardly be overcome, for instance, for overcoming beauty appeals, etc. Apart from this, the formula should be repeated before mental wanderings to the Venus sphere, in order to be protected against the negative elements in particular, so that their intended influences and allurements fail to work. Likewise, when wandering to other spheres, for instance, to the sphere of Mars, the EP formula offers great advantages, for one will never condemn the negative, but will be strengthened in the belief that everything happens with good reason and must therefore come to pass. The Quabbalist will consequently assume the same attitude towards all spherics beings, that is, he will remain neutral and never condemn anything. Applied materially, no matter whether via food and drink or directly to the material plane. This formula will rouse a strong reproductive drive and a longing to have children and their love. This letter combination enables the Quabbalist to impregnate and influence his semen in such a way that only that semen cell will cause the conception and generate a child of the sex that the Quabbalist has chosen. Are in the spirit, the mental body. This formula combination especially strengthens the intellect and rouses S feeling of independence and absolute freedom of the will. Mentally, for instance, this formula may be used for forming and charging volts for the purpose of freeing someone from prison, particularly if that person has been put into jail on account of a false sentence. The use of this formula also proves food in lawsuits where the truth is to be revealed and absolute justice done. Used in the astral, this formula evokes fabulous ingenuity and increases one's gift for inspiration. Apart from this, many other positive talents may be roused in the astral body by means of this formula. Materially, this letter combination will cause situations securing outstanding success in all possible fields of science. He who is engaged as a writer will, by the help of this formula, gain a great circle of readers by whom his literary work will be received as desired. In the mental body, this formula reinforces the electric fluid and willpower and, apart from this, extends one's consciousness. The ES formula may be used to master the electric fluid in such a way that its effect may even be transferred to a single dot, for it enables one to acquire such or similar abilities. The ES formula also contributes to an increase in one's intellectual activities, that is, to building up great energies of perseverance. Furthermore, the faculty of clairvoyance, especially the faculty or prophetic clairvoyance, may also be increased by this formula, no matter whether visions into the past, present or future, or visions over time and space are in question. Likewise, one attains the faculty of transferring thoughts and wishes to an animal. When applying it to the material body, one can bring about an instantaneous hypnosis or deep sleep by means of this formula. Furthermore, there is no doubt that by using this formula the consciousness of any human being may be influenced and mastered at will. When it is embodied in food and drink for oneself, sleeplessness may easily be removed. The effect of soporifics may likewise be increased if they are charged with the ES formula. If this formula combination is applied to oneself, it enormously increases the power of one's belief, that is, the mastery of the light with all its variations and possibilities. It evokes highest enlightenment and is especially suitable for solving difficult problems which require brain waves. This formula is a universal aid for enlightening the intellect. Since the ESH formula also increases the power of belief, as mentioned above, it is possible to have every word uttered in the spirit or any wish expressed by it realized, if desired, in all three kingdoms by means of the relevant elements. When it is applied materially, it is possible to condense any power either in the whole body, but only in certain parts of the body, in such a way that the parts of the body are no longer influenced by the elements. Thus invulnerability, incombustibility and unassailability may be achieved. The ESH formula also imparts the faculty of fully mastering the electric fluid and its condensation in the material world, in order to carry through operations of transmutation in a quabbalistic way. Wherever an especially strong fluid is required, the application of this formula is recommended. This formula also does good service in the treatment of various diseases which make the reinforcement of the electrical fluid necessary. If the formula magician intends to bring about quabbalistic phenomena, for instance lighting a candle by concentrated electric fluid or influencing a thunderstorm, lightning and thunder, or the forming of especially strong electric volts for such purposes, he will be glad to make use of this formula combination. Used mentally, this formula is capable of increasing intuitive memory in an exceptional manner. Long-forgotten ideas are reborn by it. Applied astrally, it strengthens the power over the elements, and it is possible to dynamize, in a quabbalistic manner, various elementaries and elementals by its help so strongly that the use of universal light or elemental matter is not necessary at all. Therefore, this formula is preferred in any astral magic operations where the reinforcement or dynamization of a power is in question. When mixed with food and drink, this formula is used for the purpose of prolonging life and removing any physical disharmonies. It thus strengthens health and the astral bond between body and soul. Thereby a great power of resistance is achieved, enabling all sorts of useful applications in practical life where special physical endurance is required. The mental application of this formula makes an easy transfer into the akasa principle possible, that is, the achievement of a state of trance, no matter what is intended thereby, whether clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, or the evocation of positive effects in a direct manner, for example changing the fate, forming volts, transferring them into the akasa principle. So by frequent repetition of this formula, the faculty of intuition is increased exceedingly. When it is successfully applied to the astral body, it may easily be separated, either from one's own body or the body of someone else, since the transfer of this formula into the astral matrix effects an easy separation of the same, thus facilitating the emission of the astral body. If food and drink are influenced by this formula and then eaten and drunk, the faculty of materialization in the material world will be increased. This latter combination may be successfully used for materialization mediums and for the condensation of spiritual beings. In connection with space impregnations, spiritual beings can easily be seen and felt, possibly also by people who have not been trained spiritually, will appear. Connected with charges of fluid condensers, or with mirror magic. This formula facilitates the concrete visual perception of a materialization image. Wherever something condensable is involved, no matter whether thoughts, astral or mental forms, spiritual beings, etc., this formula may be applied with outstanding success. When this formula is applied to oneself in the mental plane, it will evoke increased medial abilities, especially the faculty of clairsentience and psychometry. Wherever the enhancement of the concentration of feelings is in question, this formula may also be used with good success. Persons who are strong analysts, that is, who have a predominating intellect lacking adequate emotional understanding and empathy, may readily make use of this formula, for it will evoke a greater sensitivity for feelings when used repeatedly. Of course, it may also be applied to people who are said to be insensible in general. After frequent repetition in the astral, this formula will develop the faculty of clairvoyance and clairtelephony over great distances. Applied materially, this formula helps to overcome any kind of trouble easily, so that the quabbalist who influences food and drink by this formula, will get over grievances, sorrows and pains more easily, thus becoming well balanced. The magnetic fluid in the physical body is strengthened in particular. If mesmerists use this formula, they are able to treat successfully all diseases analogous to the fire element and the electric fluid, thus, for instance, inflammations, states of fever, etc., where a strong magnetic fluid may help. Many other things may be favorably influenced by this letter combination, for instance, operations of natural magic, charges of talismans, ASOE. Why this formula combination makes a strong bond to God possible. Furthermore, it rouses a strong feeling of cosmic love. If it is often repeated in the mental body, it will evoke all mental faculties that arise from cosmic love. The quabbalist is able to impregnate his own spirit with this formula in such a manner that even the greatest enemy will not be able to do him any harm. Of the astral faculties over which this formula has an influence, the gift for prophecy, or the mantic faculty regarding fate in the material world, may be mentioned. If this formula is dexterously applied as a sort of magic hood, it will make the quabbalist invisible on his mental wanderings. Thus, it contributes excellently to mental and astraline visibility, so that a medium not trained in QUABBALAH, or a clairvoyant of the same type, is not able to see a mental or astral body influenced by the help of this formula, neither in the mental nor in the astral world. It stands to reason that the invisibility attained by this formula is also maintained during mental wanderings to other spheres. This way of making bodies invisible may also be transferred to the physical body. However, longer training is required until he is able to condense the formula in such a way that it becomes capable of really changing the electronic oscillations or the aura of man. Thus, for instance, the formula may be changed into a volt. Furthermore, the quabbalist is enabled, by the help of this formula, to eliminate a photographic picture that has been taken either on a film plate or a roll film. If the quabbalist does not want to be photographed, or if this is done against his will or without his knowledge, he is able to eliminate the shot, causing the plate or film to become black. Many other possibilities could be mentioned, but someone who knows the laws of analogy well, will be able to find further possibilities for himself. After repeated use, this formula will impart an excellent power of judgment, a special quickness or repartee, and a good gift of combination, and, likewise, the faculty or penetrating deep into a matter. Used astrally, it will evoke artistic talents, especially an excellent oratorical gift and literary talents. The formula may also be used to reinforce within oneself the faculty of sending messages through the air, that is, of overbridging time and space and of clairaudiently perceiving, over great distances, everything that is said. Furthermore, of connecting oneself with the relevant object so that the things said in the astral at a great distance may be perceived by clairaudience at the same time. If food and drink are influenced by this letter combination, great endurance in sports will be effected by thoroughly strengthening the nervous system. When used as an aid in space impregnations, The EZ formula cheers up feelings and favorable influences everything that is analogous to a happy character, as, for instance, the enthusiasm for singing and dancing and other entertainments. Wherever depression prevails, this formula can bring about the opposite. The most secret thoughts and wishes of the mental body concerning the material world may be realized by the help of the EE formula. By inspiration and intuition, the Quabbalist is shown ways and means to have his wishes fulfilled. If the Quabbalist often repeats the EE formula, he will make inspiring warnings accessible to himself if he should make any false step. By the use of this formula, any material wish uttered in connection with elemental magic is sometimes realized at once. Everything that the Quabbalist wishes to realize materially and, vice versa, everything that he wants to remove from the world, will be achieved by the help of this formula. If the Quabbalist chooses the EO formula, he will gain the faculty or perceiving, understanding and mastering the whole chain of the matter, even if he has only been able to learn part of it. If, for instance, he knows about one mental faculty of a man, he, by the help of the EO formula, is able to make out, one by one, all other mental faculties which that human being possesses. If the Quabbalist thinks it necessary, he may also master them so that the man in question will appear to him quite exposed, like the image in a mirror, without being able to hide anything from him. If the Quabbalist applies this formula in the astral, he is also capable of condensing his orders over great distances in such a way that they will strike like thunder. Everything that causes sounds, no matter whether astrally or materially, may be condensed, reinforced and projected by means of this letter combination. This formula is therefore rightly called the tone amplifier of all sound vibrations, tone vibrations, and also of all color and emotional oscillation. This is only a minor example of the numerous important functions of this formula. The Quabbalist will no doubt work out further variations himself. If he is able to use this formula well, he is in a position to influence and master the astral oscillation of any body, even of speeding up or slowing down electronic oscillation to cause the desired modification of the quality of an object. This formula is therefore called the qualitative transmutation formula. Now, if I wanted to deal with all the formulas of the twofold key with all combinations, I should have to indicate 27 by 27 equals 729 letter combinations. However, the twofold key being rather a difficult key, I have at least mentioned the first 5 letters of the alphabet as examples regarding this key, assuming that the advanced and experienced Quabbalist will know how to work properly with all the other letters of the alphabet, and that he will compile at will further formulas regarding the twofold key. If, in his opinion, the examples given by me do not suffice, it should be considered that the following key, the threefold key, has 27 by 27 by 27 equals 19,683 letter combinations, and the fourfold key even 531,441 letter combinations, that is, 27 raised to the 4th power. To describe them all is really impossible. I do describe the keys in this book, indicating a number of formulas analogous to each key. However, my work is not to be regarded as Quabbalistic dictionary, but contains concrete explanations of the 4 Quabbalistic keys. With regard to the twofold key, I am now going to indicate to the Quabbalist, as a further aid, the mental qualities of the letter series. I shall inform the Quabbalist about the qualities appertaining to the threefold and fourfold keys by means of one letter formula, the so-called basic key, on the basis of which all the other letter combinations may be compiled. Taking the letters of the alphabet one after the other with regard to their mental application of the twofold key, everything referring to the letter A is analogous to the enlightened intellect, faculty of judgment, comprehension of profoundest truths, knowledge and faculty or perception, and development of all intellectual faculties. B letter combinations impart absolute power over the electromagnetic fluid in all spheres. This is the mastery over polarity. C the influences of all divine ideas, virtues and qualities. D everything analogous that is connected to consciousness and the mental matrix. The D everywhere enlarges the ego consciousness and leads to wisdom. E everything related to the transfer of consciousness and intuition. F everything that refers to the unification of the basic qualities of the spirit, that is, willpower, intellect and feeling, as ego consciousness. G everything that is analogous to divine blessing, for instance mercy, peace, remission, etc. H everything that is meant by intuition regarding divine providence. Ch everything having an analogous connection to linguistic talent, no matter whether the language is of spiritual beings, human beings or animals, or the knowledge of symbols is concerned. I everything relating to conscience, reminiscence and memory. J everything connected to ecstasy and rapture. K everything concerning the state of manifestation of belief. L everything regarding the spiritual comprehension of true morality from the Hermetic point of view. M everything referring to feeling, life and sensitivity. N everything concerning the mental aura and the mental matrix with regard to the aura. O everything analogous to the basic qualities of the spirit with regard to harmony, faithfulness and legality. P everything that has to do with religious feeling and deepest devotion. R everything concerning freedom of will, freedom of action and intellectuality. S everything regarding enthusiasm and the absolute mastery of the electric fluid. Sh everything connected to perfect enlightenment, spiritualization and rapture related to these, enlightened intellect. T all the phases of influencing memory. U everything relating to the faculty of working in the Akasa principle, in all forms of existence, likewise the highest intuition, the karma or mastery of fate. W everything appertaining to clairsentience, faculty of psychometry, medial faculties. Y everything having to do with inspiration in connection with intuition, due to the attachment to God and love, and the mental faculties arising therefrom. Z everything that brings about the enhancement of general intellectual faculties, has special influence on memory. Ash the realization of wishes regarding physical matter. O everything that refers to the transformation of mental qualities. All further letters may then be brought into line with the ones indicated here and the desired formulas compiled. On account of the examples given here, the Quabbalist is offered a great selection of Quabbalistic letter combinations, formulas. Thus, the twofold key is the most important key relating to the spirit and the mental plane, even though it may be applied to the astral and the material world, with all its wishes and the like. It is not necessary to indicate all the formulas one after the other. Depending on purpose and intention, the letter combinations indicated by me may satisfy the practical formula magician. In any case, he is able to compile further letter combinations for certain purposes by making use of the other letters of the alphabet and their analogous connection to the mental qualities. If desired, the astrological analogies may also be called on. Likewise, the Quabbalist may avail himself of the elemental key, that is, the elemental analogies of the letters and their analogous connection to color and sound, and compile, on his own, further analogous formulas as to the twofold key, or possibly also the threefold key, or even the fourfold key. Never will he make a mistake in doing so,